Once upon a time, in a lonely stretch of countryside where cold winds bent the trees and rain leaked through broken roofs, there lived a widow and her son Jack. Their farm had once been green and full of life, but after years of drought and sickness, the earth had turned dry and bitter. Their chickens had died during winter, their crops had failed, and now only one creature remained to keep them alive: their old white cow, Old Bess. Every morning before sunrise, Jack chopped wood until his hands bled, carried water from the freezing well, and worked the dead soil while his mother stitched torn clothes beside the firelight. Still, hunger sat at their table every night. Sometimes Jack woke to hear his mother crying quietly in the dark, believing he was asleep. One evening, during a terrible storm, she finally whispered the words Jack feared most. "We must sell Old Bess." Jack felt as if the house itself had grown colder. The next morning he led the cow down the muddy road toward town. Thick fog curled through the trees, swallowing the path ahead. Not a single bird sang. Halfway to the market, Jack noticed an old man standing perfectly still beneath a twisted tree. The strange thing was, the rain did not touch him. "Good morning, Jack," the old man said softly. His voice sounded dry and cracked, like leaves scraping across stone. Jack tightened his grip on the rope. "How do you know my name?" The old man smiled. His teeth were long and yellow. "I know many things." From his pocket, he pulled out 3 black beans. They looked strange, shiny like wet stones. "These are no ordinary beans," the man whispered. "Plant them tonight, and they will grow beyond the clouds." Jack hesitated. "What's the catch?" The old man's smile widened. "Every magic comes with a price." Thunder cracked overhead. Before Jack could ask another question, the old man leaned closer and whispered, "The giant in the sky stole something long ago. The beans know the way back. Then he traded the beans for Old Bess and disappeared into the fog. Not walked away. Disappeared." When Jack returned home and showed his mother the beans, she burst into tears. "You traded our last hope for stones?" In anger, she threw the beans out the window. That night the wind screamed around the farmhouse. Jack could not sleep. He dreamed of something enormous moving high above the clouds. At dawn, the entire house shook. Jack rushed to the window. A gigantic black beanstalk twisted into the sky, so high its top vanished into storm clouds. Something about it felt wrong. The vines moved slowly, almost like snakes. But Jack climbed anyway. Higher and higher he went, until the world below disappeared beneath the clouds. At the top stood a castle made of dark stone. No birds flew near it. No sunlight touched it. The giant woman who opened the door had a tired face and one great eye in the middle of her forehead. When she saw Jack, fear crossed her face. "You should not be here," she whispered. Before Jack could speak, the ground trembled. Thump, thump, thump. The giant was coming home. The woman grabbed Jack and hid him inside a massive iron pot near the fire. Then the giant entered. He was enormous, with pale skin stretched tightly over his bones. Around his neck hung chains made from gold crowns and rusted swords. He sniffed the air. Then he growled, "Fee-fi-fo-fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman." Jack held his breath. The giant sat heavily at the table and slammed down a giant sack. Gold coins spilled everywhere across the floor. Then he dragged out a white hen. "Lay," he commanded. The hen laid a golden egg, but Jack noticed blood dripping from her feathers. The creature looked sick and terrified. Next, the giant brought out a golden harp with the face of a young girl carved into it. "Play." The harp began singing a sad song so beautiful it made Jack's chest ache. But as she sang, Tears rolled down her golden face. The giant slowly fell asleep. The moment his snores shook the castle walls, the giant's wife lifted the pot lid. "Go," she whispered. Before he wakes, Jack stepped quietly across the floor. But then the harp suddenly spoke. "Please," she whispered weakly, "don't leave me here." Jack froze. "You can talk. I was once human," the harp said softly. "The giant steals souls." Jack's blood turned cold. "The old man sent you, didn't he?" she asked. Jack nodded slowly. "The giant murdered your father years ago," she whispered. "He stole the riches of the valley below and cursed this land with famine. The beans were planted before by your father." Jack felt his knees weaken. His father had climbed the beanstalk too, and never returned. Suddenly the giant stirred. One huge eye opened. "Thief!" The castle shook as the giant roared. Jack grabbed the hen and the harp and ran. The giant chased him through the clouds, smashing stone beneath his feet. Jack leapt onto the beanstalk and climbed downward as fast as he could. Above him, the giant descended like a living mountain. The beanstalk twisted violently in the storm winds. Lightning flashed. The giant reached down, nearly grabbing Jack's leg. "You belong to me," he thundered. Jack saw the ground below. "Mother!" he screamed. "The axe!" His mother burst from the farmhouse, carrying the old wood-cutting axe. Jack jumped from the beanstalk just as the giant descended through the clouds. Without stopping to think, Jack swung the axe into the thick green stalk. Again, again, again. The giant roared with fury as the beanstalk cracked apart. Then, with one final blow, the great stalk split. The giant fell. The earth shook when he struck the ground, and then silence. The storm clouds above slowly disappeared. For the first time in years, sunlight touched the farm. The black beanstalk withered into dust. The golden harp transformed before Jack's eyes into a young woman dressed in silver. She smiled sadly. "The curse is broken." The sickly hen became healthy once more, laying golden eggs freely instead of through pain and fear. That spring, green crops finally returned to the valley. Jack rebuilt the farm. His mother no longer cried at night. Hunger disappeared from the countryside, and travelers returned to the roads again. Years later, people would still tell stories about the boy who climbed above the clouds and defeated the giant who stole the sky. But sometimes, on quiet, stormy nights, Jack remembered the old man beneath the twisted tree. And he often wondered who had planted the first magical beans.